Club. Yes. All right.
Ooh, how's it going, man?
Welcome, bro. Welcome. Do. All right.
We rolling?
Get rid of that. We record and we rolling.
Nice. What's new with you, man?
Nothing really. Everything's good over here. Nothing,
Nice.
nothing really to report. Anything over there?
No, not too much.
Cool.
Yeah. Um, had an interesting interaction with my dad yesterday.
Okay. Please tell. Pray
Uh,
tell.
yeah, it was he came in kind of just randomly and uh and then at some point he was like we were talking about something and then he just like decided to he's like, for example, like with Israel Palestine, and then just like could have used any analogy but chose that one, and it's something that me and him just like generally try to stay away from because we are so opposite on it.
Yeah.
And 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 it was just, I don't know, it was, I guess it just truly like fucking disgusts me, his thoughts on it, his take on it. And you know I don't know, like I was trying to be like, why does this bother me so much? Like I shouldn't be that surprised by it. Like I should
hmm
kind of be like, yes, this is what I expect. um and in part uh at least in part, no, it's because when I was like a little kid, he like drilled the kind of like, I don't know, like stuff about the Holocaust into my head, and stuff about uh, you know uh, they're all out to get us, the world's out to get us, Jews and everything. And
And everybody's reading like the Diary of Anne Frank when they're in middle school or whatever.
yeah,
It's like not. It's not even just if you're brought up Jewish. You're also brought
yeah,
up knowing about that stuff just as a part of our culture.
yeah, totally. And But I remember as like a little kid always thinking like trying to struggling to wrap my mind around how the Nazis could do that to like children,
Mm,
you know?
mm,
And it was just something I couldn't understand as a little kid. And honestly, that was like very influential to me in that it like set me on this journey, this mission, ever since I was a little kid, to try to understand that, and because I couldn't understand it, I would, I don't know, I would think about it a lot, as a little kid
mm.
and throughout my life. Um and it's weird because now, you know, I kind of understand it, meaning how could people do that? Now I look at my dad
Mm,
and I'm like, well, he's fine with it.
mhm.
You know, he's fine with Israel doing that to little kids. And is ultimate, like if I were to, ask him like, how are you okay with that? He would just, his this thing would come over him almost like a hypnotist,
Mhm,
or
mhm,
like would snap their finger or whatever, like some signal that would just send him into dissociated mode.
mhm,
And then this other being comes in where it's like, you know, he's less of a human being, you know, and all of a sudden now it's like, you know, he's not going to have empathy. He's not going to have compassion. Like that's going to be too distant from him, you know, because to him, it's, you know, almost like I remember around the time closer to when you and I first met, almost like 20 years ago. Um, I went to something at NYU that was like these authors and writers that were basically doing a talk at NYU. This was like when the war, like post 9/11, like post Iraq invasion, and they were basically these people that were talking about, and they had people from, Arab and Muslim people from the Middle East who were on stage and sharing their stories.
Yeah.
And basically they were, talking about how they were just walking, whatever, going to the store one day, and then all of a sudden some van or Jeep or whatever pulled over, and then these people jumped out and just like kidnapped, this random dude. And, and they had kids and a family, and they were just kidnapped and then taken to some black site, or Guantanamo or something like that, and then tortured and all this, and held, without telling the family,
Yes.
and all that. And, hearing these like horrific stories like that, and saying to my, and then seeing my dad maybe like the next, maybe a couple of days later, and I mean, like telling him and my brothers like about, this presentation I saw with people, and my dad, like this thing, it was like yesterday, it was like this clap, 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 and it was like, and it was just like, just this thing, because he's normally kind of like a nice, mild-mannered guy, and but then all of a sudden with this, when I brought this up, he was just like, it was just like this thing happened, this change, like, Incredible Hulk came out, and all of a sudden he was just like, whoa, those people shouldn't be terrorists. And I was like, Dad, the whole point is this guy wasn't a terrorist.
Right.
These people weren't terrorists.
Right.
They were still just kidnapped, taken away from their families, tortured. And he's like, well, they shouldn't support terrorism. And I'm like, Dad, they didn't support terror. And he was just, it just didn't matter. He was just like, no, like, and yesterday talking to him, it was like that. And my dad is, and it's, he's, and it's funny because he's like, well, do you know why we made Israel? It's like, yeah, like as if I've never heard about the Holocaust or the pogroms or, and it's just like, well, do you know what this is about? Like, because it's, if we didn't do this, we had, nowhere in the country was accepting us, nowhere in the world was accepting us, and so we had to do this. And I'm like, I was like, Dad, I went to Israel like, around 2000 on the Birthright Israel trip, and like, and they straight up told us in the year 2000, like, this was a land without a people for a people without a land. And I'm like, it's not like this was 1948. This is the year like 2000. Like they're still saying that shit. They're still lying like that. Like, and all of them were lying like that. And it's like, you get this feeling like, it's almost like they're not even lying. Like they just believe it. Like they just believe like no one was here. Like this, it was just sitting here and we just, whoa, what's this? We found, look at this, we found a homeland, and I'm just, I don't know, it's and I was like, Dad, I'm like, I would argue that the reasons you're saying for it are the good, like JP Morgan said, there are two reasons things happen: the good reason and the real reason, and that's the good reason, and the real reason is, Zionism is using Jewish people as human shields to further British imperialism, and now Anglo-American empire, you know?
Right, like Constantine did with Christianity or something, right? That
Exactly.
that you're taking a belief system and then you're using it as a will to power.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And then the people who already were believers on it in it,
Yeah.
you have a really good chance of conscripting them into your group, because it's like, this is for Jews. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm a Jew, cool.
Yeah.
This is for Christians. Oh, cool, I'm a Christian.
Yes.
Awesome. Like, all right,
Yes.
cool. Like, the Christians eat Frosted Flakes. Cool. I guess I'm buying Frosted Flakes
Yeah.
at the store tomorrow. Did you know that Frosted Flakes is the most Christian cereal? Did you know that? Like, it's amazing. I just found this out. I'm buying some tomorrow, because how come? Because I'm a Christian.
Yeah. Exactly. And like, to me, I remember I first heard it from you, something about like when you were, one of the times when I was visiting you out in Michigan, that like that identity was, how bad identity was, like
Right.
how dangerous identity is.
Right. Because
And
it is based on likes and dislikes. It's based on this is good and this is bad. It's
yeah,
based on dualistic thinking. That's like
yeah,
how it's motored. So it's
yeah,
like, I'm Jewish, they're not. Like, being Jewish is good, being like Palestinian is bad. It's like, it's over.
yeah,
It's like that's
yeah,
what I believe. There's no why.
exactly,
That's
like
just
that's,
right, or it's the truth.
yep,
It gets connected to the truth, because we don't want to be wrong.
yeah,
We don't think our beliefs are wrong. We think our beliefs are right. Everybody really thinks they're right from their point of view.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And like Terence McKenna says, all ideology is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And so ideology, like my definition for it is being a true believer in something you don't fully understand, you know
Right. Right.
and and so like my dad is clearly one of those people, you know and my dad was born 2 years after the Holocaust ended, so on some level I can't blame him.
Right.
On some level I can really understand where he's coming from, and have empathy for him,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the big difference between myself and, I'm sure Frylock feels the same way. Like it's like, all right, like what I learned was never again.
Mm-hmm.
What you guys learned was never again to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our big difference here. Is
That's well
is
said.
is like, you guys are fine with it as long as it's not happening to the group you identify with.
Yeah.
And an ideology, like being a true believer in something you don't fully understand, is like basically a form of mental slavery,
Mm-hmm.
where now, like, you don't even have to be paid someone. You don't even have to pay that person to go and
Mm-hmm.
promote some bullshit propaganda. This person will do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have brainwashed that idiot, to just believe in something beyond question, beyond doubt, and they will just,
It's all the mass shooters, the ones that aren't like intelligence assets or
yeah,
totally faked or something,
yeah,
that they've been radicalized. They'll just go shoot up a church or
yeah,
go whatever, and you didn't have to pay them. You didn't have to even
yeah,
tell them to do it.
exactly.
They got
Programmed.
yeah, well said.
Yeah, exactly. And so part of, I feel like, what, I don't know, I hope my mission, and I hope our mission in part, is to better understand this programming
Yes.
and how programmable human beings are, and not necessarily to get with one ideology or identity versus another, but like more to better understand this programming, so that others can better understand it, and so that it becomes less effective, the programming,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yes.
know
Yes.
and yesterday, it was just, and on some level I'm like, why is this bothering me so much that my dad, you know thinks this way and feels this way, especially because I know he thinks this way and feels this way, and I know that. But on the other hand, I know, like, before October 7th, he was finally like, you know what? I got this book that's from this historian talking about it, history from the Palestinian perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so he's like, I think I might check that out.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. But then, October 7th came along, and then it's like, that's like, well, he doesn't care, he's back to like, fuck that.
You saw the Charlie Kirk clip about that, by the way?
About the October 7th?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
the
see it?
Patrick Bet David one? Yeah.
Where he was like, look, I have some questions about this because I've been there and the whole thing is locked down and you can't go 10 feet without seeing a 19-year-old with an AR-15.
Yeah.
And so, like, was there a standoff, or there's things we need to know about this? I mean, he's saying that plus not getting bought up by Israel, plus questioning the Epstein files, which is probably a Mossad / US intelligence operation. Like, you're saying all the wrong shit. Okay. You're saying all the wrong shit.
Totally. And then right after he dies, Ben Shapiro and Israel swoops in and just takes over Turning Point USA.
Well, his wife, I'm sorry, I can understand Shapiro. His wife, if there's so far one thing that's bothering me almost as much as it's a really close second, or maybe it's a tied for first, is his wife's behavior.
Tell me.
I'm trying to decide whether I want to go the actual legit route, right? I mean, 2 days after she's hosting like this huge firework filled dancing around, super happy, hugging Donald Trump online, on interviews, just and like, she was in beauty pageants that were the Trump beauty pageants, right?
Yeah, I know. That's a weird fucking thing.
And the way, but really, and it's the thing that only probably in the past 2 or 3 years have I, maybe 2 years, maybe, I don't know. It's just a gut feeling. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed, now that I have enough data, what I've seen is that my gut feeling has never been wrong. It's often just taken time to play out. But I get a weird feeling. I don't know a damn thing about her, but the clips of her at the memorial and since then
are strange.
They're just something is off. Something is weird.
I've heard that from others too. I haven't seen it myself.
Yeah, I just something is, I don't know. So besides all the actual things you can look, no, that's kind of weird. That's strange. Why is she in booty shorts dancing with fireworks going off 2 days after her husband is wrecked?
Yeah.
And in not a super clear way, right?
Yeah,
like there's all these questions about what the fuck was that? Like, what the fuck is going on? And that's not, that would be one of the number one things on my mind. If my partner was murdered and it wasn't clear that it maybe it's like a intelligence hit or everything, that would be the number one thing. I wouldn't be going to my partner's like workplace and talking about how great she was. I'd be distraught and I'd be trying to figure out what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
That'd be the that just seems so obvious to me. And that's not at all what she's doing. Like, why isn't she the number one person saying, what the fuck happened? This is weird. I'm not getting a straight story. Shouldn't she be, instead of Candace Owens?
Yeah, I know.
Being the number one. And now you've got like the redacted and some other people that are pushing harder than she is. She's just hugging Trump.
Dude, dude, the gray zone. I sent you. The gray zone is going. This is off brand. I know they like to be critical of Israel, so I guess you could say that tracks. But they stay away from this type of shit. They generally don't touch this type of stuff with a 10-foot pole. and that Max Blumenthal is going headfirst into this, and he's pissing so many people off. Like, I don't know if you saw, he just went on, he just for the first time got, or one of the first times, he's been conspicuously uninvited to Piers Morgan. You know, Piers Morgan likes to, you know, he has that show where he has people come on and debate, and it usually gets pretty fiery. And so these viral clips come out because these fiery debate things go viral. And it's like, why wouldn't you have Max Blumenthal on? He's had other people like Max Blumenthal, but people who are like Max Blumenthal is the one that, you know, he was gonna, when RFK Jr. came out very pro-Israel, Max Blumenthal was basically like they were setting up a debate between RFK Jr. and Max Blumenthal. And then RFK Jr. like backed out. And which was kind of weird because he's like, I mean, look, outside of Israel, I really like him, you know, and clearly in my mind, it's pretty clear that they Epsteined him, you know, and along with Trump, you know, and that's why people like Trump and RFK Jr., they can be, at least on certain issues, very right on, but then these, like an issue like Israel, which you would think that they would be more, I don't know, it's one of the more low-hanging fruit topics that they're like, what, you're against, you're on the other side of that, you know? And so Max Blumenthal was on Piers Morgan and with Alan Dershowitz. And it was basically like Alan Dershowitz and like three other pro-Zionists against the one Max Blumenthal. Whereas normally he'll have it like either 1-to-1 or 2-to-2 or 2-to-1. This was like
this was stacked.
Yeah, this was like deck was stacked against him. But Max Blumenthal, he's kind of special in this way, and he's got that encyclopedic mind, you know, the type of person they don't want to bring on any one of these shows because he's got an encyclopedic mind. He, outside of the deep conspiracy stuff, he's generally very right on, in my opinion. He's like, because, you know, like him, he comes from the Chomsky school, you know, that like doesn't generally like to touch the deeper, like the 9/11 or JFK, even though I think now he's probably, you know, I think he's come around on JFK. But I'm just saying at one point, that's where he comes from. So he generally stays away from like this Charlie Kirk type stuff. And he's gone him, I'd say, alongside Candace Owens. Like, I would love to see him with Candace Owens. But anyway, he went on and it got pretty heated. And it was interesting because Alan Dershowitz did something that I saw in this other Israel debate like a month or two ago. So you know who Dave Smith is?
I don't think so.
He was the guy that he's this comedian that he's like a libertarian. That he's the guy that went on Rogan a couple of months back and had that debate with that douchebag Douglas Murray, who's like, "Oh, you've never been."
Okay, yeah, you've mentioned that.
Okay, so he was the other guy. He's like this comedian that is very well informed on U.S. foreign policy. And I agree with him on just about everything as it pertains to like U.S. foreign policy. And basically, like, so on that Rogan podcast, that was like a hit job or an attempted hit job that backfired, where they were going to try to show that David Smith, you know, has no place talking publicly about Israel and being so critical of Israel. This was like meant to be a takedown of him, but it totally backfired and then catapulted him further on the stage of, and then Charlie Kirk invited Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith on stage for Turning Point USA, I think this most recent one, and they both were very scathing on Israel, and that was clearly something that, in my mind, like Israel was like, all right, now Charlie Kirk is really becoming a problem, because now he's giving a platform to these people who have a lot of credibility and sway in the conservative MAGA movement, and they were like, we're not there. And they know, I don't know if you know about, I heard the other day that the head of the ADL, it got leaked that he said he sent out some message that got leaked that was basically like, we are losing this propaganda war. We are losing, you know, Americans and so, like, when Douglas Murray went and tried to take down Dave Smith on Rogan, he had a book that was about to come out. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but I think / assume it was about Israel, like a pro-Israel thing, but I'm not certain about that. So take that with a grain of salt. But after Douglas Murray got so humiliated on that, Trump came out like the next fucking day, Trump came out like on cue and was just like, you know, Douglas Murray wrote a great book about, you know, I think about Israel, and like promo. It was just like he got the call from his handlers,
absolutely,
Trump did, and was like, I need to go out and remind MAGA that Douglas Murray is one of the good guys.
Yeah. And
despite them all like hating Douglas, or most of them hating Douglas Murray now, like, I need to do damage control. And so Zero Hedge had a debate a few months back with Dave Smith and this other guy, Alex Berenson. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a guy that did a lot of great work during COVID. He did a lot of great critical work during COVID. But as COVID went on, he became less likable, and it, to me, it became clear that, or it felt, my gut, you're saying follow our gut, like, to my gut, it feels like people like him, and to a slightly lesser extent, people like Brett Weinstein, are like some sort of almost controlled opposition. But not necessarily that, like, someone's holding a gun to their head or has.
Oh, no. You just get propped up. It's like, if you find somebody that's going to align with your views or something, you don't like have to put them on the actual payroll. You can just like, hey, like, make sure this guy gets, you know,
his word gets out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, this circles back to what we were talking about with ideology earlier.
Yes.
Ideology is you brainwash someone, so now they will be your foot soldier for free.
Yes, exactly.
For free, you know,
and they don't know that they are your foot soldiers. So if they get taken to court or whatever, they're not going to be like, well, look, let me tell you, this motherfucker hired me or something, right? It's so much better that way.
It's so much better that way. It's like the real Manchurian Candidate. Yeah. Because you don't even know who your programmer is.
Right. No.
Exactly. If you knew who your programmer was, they might be able to break you down or have you slip up.
Exactly. Some sodium pentothal or whatever.
Exactly. Whatever, you know, and so, you know, and Alex Berenson had the Zero Hedge debate against Dave Smith, and one of his main points of attack to Dave Smith, and Dave Smith is Jewish, by the way. One of his main points of attack was, Dave Smith, you're a Holocaust denier. Like, whoa, what? Like, why did you have to take it there? Why couldn't you just say the normal bullshit, lowbrow propaganda of, you're a self-hating Jew.
Right.
You're an anti-Semite.
Right.
You are a conspiracy theorist. Whatever. Any one of these ad hominem attacks. But no, the bat call was sent out. You call him a Holocaust denier. Now, the Zionists and people who identify with either Zionism or the Zionist propaganda. Now, all they need to know, if they're like, who's this Dave Smith guy?
Oh, it's like it's an ultimate dog whistle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't
exactly.
matter. It doesn't matter who it is, but you're gonna get everybody go, who's a Holocaust denier? I heard on Facebook that Gooby Gobby is a Holocaust denier. Fuck that guy. And it's like, actually, he's fucking Jewish, bro. Like you didn't read further. Like, no, I didn't. It was on Twitter.
Right. So part of the Zionist concern is that there are people like me or Dave Smith or Max Blumenthal,
Jewish people
who are Jewish people who are coming out and saying, no. Zionism is not Judaism. And the part of the magic trick, the propaganda magic trick that Zionism does is try to conflate the two. And if you're anti-Zionism, you're anti-Semitic. And it's very black and white.
Yes.
And so, because they know it's an issue. They know it's an issue that there are a lot of people like us that we're not anti-Semitic. We have no negative, irrational feelings or prejudices against Jewish people that are leading us to these conclusions, and we're a problem for them. We're a fly in the ointment for them, because almost everyone, even though 9 out of 10 people in my family, I'm going to go tomorrow to Yom Kippur, and 9 out of 10 people there are going to all be like in line with Zionism. And
bro, how do you survive? Are you just like this the whole time? Like, like a shaken soda or something? Oh my God, bro.
Dude,
no, if it's hard enough with just your dad, I can't imagine being surrounded and I mean, does it come up? Or are people kind of like,
well, people know. I think people know. They're like, if Josh is around, don't bring it up around Josh. They know. And they're like, if you get into it with Josh, like my dad brought it up to me, like, as
dude, you should switch. You should switch. You should do a 180 and be like, you know what, guys, I thought about it. Let's kill them all. I want them all dead. Faster. What's taking so long?
Right.
Kill all these motherfuckers. I want the babies done. I want the kids done. Women and children. I want it all done.
Yes.
And you guys are right. I'm on your side. Let's kill them all. Like, faster. What is taking so long?
I know. Right?
It's like the only way at this point. If you can't go that way, go the other way. And then people are like,
oh, that's great.
Like, oh God, shit. Oh shit. You force people to start arguing against you. It's so brilliant. I do that a lot as a therapist, because if you tell people to do something, they want to fight against you.
Yeah.
So actually, you just tell them to.
It's like reverse psychology.
Don't try and make them better. Try and make them worse.
Yeah.
And then they'll fight against you, and then they'll actually go the right way.
Yep. I like that. That's great, dude. That's great. And I should. And it's really tough for me. It's like I have this anxiety in me now because I know I'm going to see them all tomorrow. And I know I'm going to have to just like fucking bite my tongue for the most part. I mean, I'm willing to throw down with any and all of them, but it's just like, whatever. I don't want to like ruin everyone's time, but it's like, it's just something I feel very conflicted about, because I feel like it's something that these people need to know, that like, guys, not all of us agree. And the people that don't see it your way, it's not just because they're anti-Semites. Like, there are people who are Jewish that actually think killing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of babies is actually a really terrible thing. I know, sorry, gang raping children, and then setting the gang rapers free, which happened. They these prison guards gang raped a 13-year-old kid in jail. And then when they jailed the people for gang rape, a huge mob of people came. Yeah. And I'm like, in some ways, this is worse than Nazism. In some ways, not in all ways, but in some ways, given that it happened to us and now we're doing it, that is worse to me, and it's like, we should know better. And it's like, all these people who aren't living in Israel who actually never listened to Israeli news, because if they did, they would know that in Israel, they're a lot more honest about this shit in the media than they are in America. You know, because, America, they need America's support. Like without America's support, like Israel's going to collapse. And I think, especially given, about this, I think I told you about the Samson option, right?
Yes, of course.
So given that the Samson option, I just think it's known in the hierarchical structure at the top, the people know, like, look, we can't let Israel fail. Because if we let Israel fail, Israel's going to try to kill all of us.
Yeah.
Or they very well might try that, and we don't want that to happen. So it's like this thing that's set up, this weird perverse incentive structure, so maybe on some level, a lot of people just want to support it just because they don't want it to come to that.
Yeah.
But on the Piers Morgan thing I was mentioning before about Max Blumenthal and Alan Dershowitz, so him and Dershowitz are having a heated exchange, and then Dershowitz calls him a Holocaust denier.
Nice.
And then Max Blumenthal was like pissed, and then he started ripping into him and bringing up the Epstein stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I think I may have saw that. And then Dershowitz like, yeah, I was his lawyer.
Yeah, I was his lawyer. Yes, he saw that. You saw.
Yeah,
awesome. and it's like he's calling him a Holocaust denier, and he's like, I don't deny the Holocaust at all. He's like, I don't. And he's like, in fact, you're the one who right now is being a Holocaust denier about this presently going Holocaust.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, by you comparing what's going on now to the Holocaust, you're a Holocaust minimizer. Right. But in fact, you're just a Holocaust denier. And then he doubled down on it. And it's like, and then when Max called it an apartheid state, at first, Dershowitz was like, it is the least apartheid nation in the whole Middle East, which is like, I don't buy that, but whatever. And then he's like, in fact, it's the least apartheid state in the world. It's just like these people are fucking unhinged, and yet they're like completely allowed in decent society, and I it's just fucking insane to me, because as I see it on a bigger picture level, this is like, it's almost like a trial, a test or a trial of like, hey, can we get away with this? Can we get away with like setting up, like literally they've set up Skynet, they have this AI surveillance Skynet called Lavender. It's called like Who's Your Daddy or some shit like that. And it surveils everything, and they can just rule over them and surveil and kill and whatever. And it's like so clear that like what they're doing to the Palestinians is like what they're, and this isn't like the Jews doing it. This is just our rulers, and our rulers happen to be aligned in some cases with Zionism. Zionism is part of the empire. It's an integral, it's like a beachhead in the Middle East, the unsinkable aircraft carrier in that strategically important zone of the Middle East, and so it's like a trial balloon of like, hey, if we can get away with this, and like all this shit is on social media, and that's what's waking up all the youth to it. And by the way, my dad was like, we're losing the propaganda war because they're spending more money on their propaganda than we are. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, they're not spending more money on it. You see, that's the whole thing that's going on. And that's what's just like corporate media, like Fox News, New York Times, MSNBC, like they're all failing. And it's because people like my dad and your parents, they're old now. And there's some people our age that still, especially Trump got a lot of people to go back to the New York Times. A lot of people got so freaked out by Trump that they ran back to the open arms of the New York Times and the CIA and the FBI, who the left was always against. That's why I was like, what?
I know.
That's why I was like, what the fuck's going on with democracy now? I mean,
Yeah.
now I get it, but at the time, I was like, does not compute, and like, how is democracy now all of a sudden championing the FBI, the CIA, and U.S. foreign and policy imperialism? Like, they're supposed to be against this shit. Like, why are they for? Oh, they're for it now because Trump is speaking ill of it, and that's why, to bring it back to Brett Weinstein or Alex Berenson, I really do think those guys are put out there, or promoted in that way, because they're a form of, a useful idiot in that way. That even though I think Brett Weinstein is pretty brilliant for the most part, but I think that they're out there to be like, you have different levels of buffer zone, protecting real power. Even though Brett Weinstein, did like a video about October 7th, right after, like within a few days, had an Israeli on who used to be in the IDF and was basically saying, there's no way. It makes no sense, like the Charlie Kirk thing. It makes no sense why there would be 6 hours. It would take 6 hours to respond when, if a cat crawls in Gaza, they know it. Like, but 6 hours goes by with these people flying out on, little hang gliders, and nothing is done. Like, it doesn't make sense, doesn't add up. So he's willing to have that on, but then he just like abandons that. I don't hear him ever talking about that anymore. And in fact, I've been calling for a while, right-wing woke, now and I said that before I ever heard anyone else say it. Now I've heard many people say it, and I heard, and Brett Weinstein had a special interview with someone where the guy was talking about right-wing woke, and Brett Weinstein was like, I don't get it. I don't get, like, what is right-wing woke? Like, and I was like, what do you mean? You're too fucking smart to not get it. Like, if you're not getting it, it's because you don't want to get it. Like, this is so fucking obvious. And I know his brother is like a staunch defender of Israel. So, I know that, like, that's an interesting tell, but I feel like Brett is a little bit more, his brother was not like a COVID dissident, but, Eric wasn't, but Brett was, So it's like, but Eric is the one who's out there that was being like, hey, I've met Epstein, I met Epstein, and Epstein seemed like a construct to me. He seemed like he wasn't, it was pretty obvious he wasn't what he was being presented as to me. And that was before we knew all what we knew about him. And he's like, I felt like I was being tested. I felt like, it's almost like, now that I'm saying it, it's almost like the Trump story with Epstein, where it's like, I met Epstein, I knew him, but I could tell, and I distanced, and I didn't go down that bad, I didn't go down that rabbit hole.
Right. After we were best friends for 15 years, then I changed because he stole this girl, Virginia, from my golf club. Like, I couldn't, that was the one thing I couldn't overlook at that point,
Right.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God. That's why it's like psyops over psyops over psyops, it's just like, and then it's like, it's just people like you and I who have been at this for whatever, like 20 or 20 something years. We're like, all right, we've been in this game for a while, so we can't decode everything, but we can decode a lot more. Like, I know people that got woken up by COVID, and there's so much shit they don't get. Like, there's a lot of shit they get, but then there's all the shit that's like, oh, you're a noob to this. You're new to this. Okay.
Yes.
You think it's just all about Bill Gates.
Right.
Oh, okay. You think it's all about Elon Musk. Okay. You think Trump is is a good guy. Okay, okay. You know, and it's weird, you know, like even that guy like Ian Carroll, who I like, you
Me
know, he
too.
came out for Trump and, you know, got his ass kicked a bit for doing that. And I think is somewhat backtracked on that.
Yeah,
Good on him, you know, I think it's a big thing to admit when you're wrong or you
of
got something
course.
wrong,
Of course.
you know, have that humility. Yeah, like, and I remember, like, you know, for example, that guy who I've told you about that I had become good, that older guy I became good friends with.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, I actually haven't like hung out with him in like almost a year now.
Yeah.
And like about a year ago, I hung out with him and his friend came over and we were talking. His buddy was like really into this stuff, but but like, I don't know. He has pretty good instincts, but just not, I don't know, not a brilliant guy. He's like a pretty smart guy. He's got good instincts, but not like a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And we were talking about stuff, and then I brought up like the genocide in Gaza, and then he was like, "Well, that's a distraction," and I was like, "Wait, what did you just say?"
Right.
And then he like, I think he like pretty quickly realized like, oh shit, like like I pissed him off, and I was like, no, 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 you said it. Why is it distraction? And we got into this kind of thing. At least good on him. He was just like, my apologies. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. And you know, I was like, okay, okay. I didn't like get too nasty about it. I was like, okay, okay. But we were going into it. Then my buddy like interrupted, and then was basically like interrupted and was like, let's talk about something else.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 that was kind of the beginning of the end for me and him, because I was like, look, dude, like whatever. I'm like he's religious and into Jesus. I'm like, I let you talk about Jesus all you want. You know, not my thing. But it's cool. He's into philosophy. He's like, I don't know, he was a brilliant guy and a beautiful guy. Like there are a lot of awesome things. But I was like, dude, but the thing is his wife is big into this and got big into this during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So like, so he hears a lot from her, so he doesn't like want to keep hearing about that, which I get. And but like, for example, he was like, I've listened to you. I understand what you're saying. I'm gonna vote for Trump. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, what are you saying? I'm like, I'm not telling you to vote for Trump. I'm
Yeah.
like, is your
Interesting.
takeaway from me that Trump is the good guy and to vote for? Then like, you don't fucking understand what I'm talking
Yeah. Then you
about.
don't understand me.
Yeah, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's just, and I'm glad I've been in this game for a while now, because
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of noobs that just, you know, like, no, Trump is fighting the deep state, and I'm not saying there are zero ways you know, that there are no ways that there's truth to that, but, and I do think he's a lesser of evil in some ways compared to the Democrats. Um, but obviously, in other ways, no, because in other ways, he's completely pushing forward the New World Order agenda.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just
Covering
being,
for Epstein, covering for Israel. I mean,
yeah,
what other crazy, terrible shit can you do?
yeah, you know, bringing on the surveillance state full throttle.
Oh, full.
You know, letting all the Zionists buy up all of the media. You know, it's just, you know, it's just frustrating. You know, sometimes, you know, it's just like,
Well, it's kind of the identity thing where it's like, okay, you convinced me, I'll go left. It's like,
yeah,
okay, you
yeah,
convinced me, I'll go right. It's like, fuck, like
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying they both fucking suck, and
yeah,
it's so
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
clear. Oh shit. Oh god
Yes,
damn.
yes. Like, right, you were telling me the other day that one of your friends, right, is like pretty pro Trump,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it must be tough, like trying to like be like, look, dude, like he's not who you think he is.
No, I'm just having to wait because in that same conversation, he was like, anybody that sees what's going on with the Epstein files and isn't saying what the fuck is not paying any attention. And I'm like, but Trump and Epstein were best friends. Is that why? Is it I can't remember exactly what I said. I might even look at the text message, but I was like, and he was like, maybe. And I was like, no, that's a direct quote from Epstein, that they were best friends, that I was Donald Trump's best friend for 10 years. We were best friends. You've got the birthday book, you've got all sorts of stuff going on with them. And I'm like, is the issue that if that turned out to be correct, you'd have to drop Trump? You know, right. And I don't remember exactly what the answer was or something like that, but I think that there's yes, I mean, that's absolutely happening, and I just can't. It's the identity thing. It's the identity thing all over again. I think within his family or within his with his siblings and stuff, they're into Trump, and it's become part of their identity, right? And you don't want to. We resist changing that stuff because we don't want to be convinced. We don't want to. It's like the con artist thing. It's like part of us doesn't want to admit that we got played, you know?
Yeah. Like the Twain quote, it's easier to fool someone than to convince them they've been fooled.
Yeah, absolutely right. You know,
or the Carl Sagan quote.
I don't like admitting that the COVID stuff just makes no fucking sense. Upon hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Upon looking back, what?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense. I don't know if it was nefarious or not, or released on purpose, or some guy ate a bat and now we're all fucking fucked. I don't know. Did he have sex with a bat and now we're I don't know what happened. All I know is something weird fucking happened. Something really weird and strange happened, and it makes no sense. It's the 9/11 thing all over again, or the Charlie Kirk thing. There's this thing that happened, and the explanation makes no fucking sense. And the thing that happened is really interesting. It's really important. I would like to know what fucking happened. I don't care like what your secret ingredient is in your mac and cheese. It's smoked paprika. No, I don't care. That's not actually important to me. 9/11, Charlie Kirk getting wrecked, COVID, whatever.
WMD.
Sure, WMDs, aliens or advanced technology. This shit I do want to know. And we've got all the drone thing happening again. And everyone's just like, he was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, either this is aliens or China is just totally flexing on everybody, just being like, fuck you. We're way fucking ahead and deal with it. Or what? I don't know. But whatever the explanation is, it's going to be fucking important. That it's important to me. But and I think the mechanism, it seems like, and look, I'm just riffing right now. I feel like this Charlie Kirk thing is one of the fastest I've ever seen people question the narrative. One of the fastest. I mean, fast. Like with 9/11, it like took some time.
So long.
And
long.
It's too sensitive of a subject or something like that. But this is one of the first times with a major issue. People, I feel like, in my opinion, I'm seeing an immediate going, wait, no, something's off. We can all tell. And we don't know how it's off, but we can just tell. You said this is tuna and this is a cardboard box. And I can look, I can just tell it's not tuna. Okay. So tell me what the fuck it is I'm eating, you know, because we can. And so I don't know if that's accidental or if that's a unintended consequence of, or maybe intended consequence of media and AI and the internet and more interconnectivity and possible to communicate and research and download videos and slow them down and everybody's got a smartphone, so you're getting multiple and blah blah, you know, that there may be kind of an unintended consequence of having so much access to information. Of course, we don't have access to all of it, but it would certainly, at least could be argued, we're at the top point of all of the past 10,000 years. I think I have more access to information right now in this moment than I would have in the past 10,000 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like, wow, there's something different in terms of people's ability or willingness, or maybe it's just amount of information that allows people to actually, because before it was like someone to ring you up on the telephone, like, did you hear Charlie Kirk got shot? It's like, okay, bye. It's like, okay, the end. That's the story. Or it's in the one newspaper. This happened.
Yeah.
Okay, the end. It's over. That's the fact. And now people can go nuts, even if it's in the totally wrong way. They can go totally nuts now.
Right. And again, I think at least part of it is gauging. Like when you sent me that clip yesterday and I responded, I'm like, I think in part what they might be doing is gauging what the collective conscious, what all of the internet sleuths, and all the people that are in alternative media, independent media, like how well they can wade through the bullshit, wade through the haystacks to find the needle, and then that needle is just one piece of a puzzle, and you got to go through all these fucking haystacks to find all the other needles. And once you find all the needles, you got to put them together and they make some puzzle, and then if you get enough of the needles, you're like, oh, okay, now it's starting to take shape a little bit. Okay, there's some missing pieces here and there, but we're getting an idea of what the general shape of this is. So I wonder if something like Charlie Kirk, he arguably had the largest amount of sway amongst young conservatives. So that's huge.
And he was on the rise. It wasn't like plateauing or something. It was on the rise.
Yep, he was on the rise. He was starting.
So if you've got a smart enough AI that's dedicated, a surveillance AI that's dedicated to keeping you on top, and your name is Israel, then it's gonna and it's gonna say, here's the top 3 people you need to kill. He's gonna be one of the top 3.
Yeah, exactly. And if he can't be brought to heel by giving him shitloads of money, because that's the way you'd always do it, and that's what, in my opinion, the Brett Weinsteins are out there to do. They're out there to do, and the Joe Rogans and the Brett Weinsteins are out there to basically be like, why did COVID happen and why did all this shady stuff happen? Because of money. Because there's a big money grab. A lot of people made a shitload of money, and that's why they do everything. And it's like, well, on some level, yes. But that's the more intermediate level. On the higher level, they're not necessarily doing what they do for money, because money is just like a means to an end. Money is not power. You use money to get power. You could say it's the most easily convertible, thing to power. Mm-hmm. But money was something that it was like, I like to say, it's like the Folgers crystals. We've secretly replaced your coffee, your gourmet coffee, with Folgers crystals. It's like Smedley Butler, the whole coup. We've secretly taken away the gold and replaced it with Folgers crystals. Or the opium wars. They didn't have enough silver to get the tea, silk, and porcelain from China. Yeah. All right, well, and they weren't going to accept a trade with inferior British-made goods. Well, all right, then we'll take the opium, and process it and then bring it to China and make a shitload of money from that. And then from that, we can buy the tea, silk, and porcelain, and so it's like ways that you find a way to replace, like tokenization. How do you tokenize something? You make a token of it, and now it's like the real thing is long gone, but it doesn't matter. Like, we've all been operating without it, but there are some people who are very clever that took all the gold and took all the silver and took all the real shit, and now we're just like, working on like the phony diamonds, and and all that shit, and so money by the higher rung is just something used by the people really in power to incentivize Pfizer, Bayer, Monsanto, whoever, Moderna, to go and make us a vaccine, and they're like, you got it. and then we make the vaccine, and then, you know, we give it out to people. People start dying and getting sick, you know, but no, it's okay. You just keep on telling everyone these are the miracle of the modern age, and you need another one now, you know, and then people are going to go and get new, you know, more of them, you know, and it's like, are they falling for it? And it's like, wow, a lot of them are falling for it. And then the Brett Weinsteins are there. And again, I don't think Brett Weinstein is you know, like, I'd be very surprised if he was wittingly involved in that. I just think he's someone like my dad who, you know, pretty smart guy, you know, pretty well read in a lot of ways. But he has these Achilles heels that they've always assumed that this conspiracy stuff was just nonsense, and they never took it seriously. And that's why, like, Brett Weinstein was like kind of butting heads with some people in that same COVID dissident movement, because you had a lot of people in the COVID dissident movement that were more like myself, who were like, guys, don't you realize this whole thing is bullshit? Like, you know, you still believe in so much bullshit, but your eyes are open on COVID. And that's great. That's a great start, but it goes much deeper than COVID.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like I figured out the one conspiracy. It's COVID. You know, it's like there's one thing. It's this. You know, it's like there's a lot of really weird things going on in this universe. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just saying, oh, it's just this. It's just this. I figured out the one thing. You know, I figured out who killed JFK. Everything's been on the up and up.
Yep, everything is good.
Everything since then has been fine. You know,
but
only this one election was stolen.
Yeah,
all the other ones were totally.
I know.
It was just this one.
I know.
It's the one I lost, by the way. It was the one I lost. That one. But then when I won later on, that was legit. Just so that's clear.
Yeah. So and I do feel like, you know, kind of like, I always think about Pokemon Go. You know, Pokemon Go. You know, it was like a CIA psyop, you know, and it was like, well, they're trying to create a new service. They're creating a new service, which is they call the economy of action, where they would see if they could say, hey, McDonald's, hey, Starbucks, I bet you we can increase your customer, the amount of people that come into your store by 20%. And McDonald's and Starbucks and whatnot say, bullshit, how can you do that? You know, and they go, don't worry about that. That'll be our problem.
Right.
Well, how much will you pay for 20% more customers?
Right.
And they're like, well, we'll pay you X amount.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. Then they put out Pokemon Go. And then they're like, all right, now you got to go to this McDonald's. And after that McDonald's, you got to go to this Starbucks.
Yeah.
And then you increase the foot traffic in there, and the McDonald's like, wow, how did you do it? You know? And so COVID was like another version of that. But it was like for the whole world. And it wasn't just for McDonald's. It was like they've been trying this shit, these tactics, to apply to the strategy. And the strategy is, you know, eventually, like, to get people to submit to all sorts of terrible things. Like, for example, the mandates. You know, you're going to tell me, like, they're like the CEO of was it, I think the CEO of Bear went on, you know, was interviewed and said, if you had told people 5 years ago, all of you have to get this experimental gene therapy, no one would have taken it. You would have to pay people to be experimented on. But with COVID, we gave them, and this is wild because he said the quiet part out loud, that these were experimental gene therapies. You know, these weren't vaccines. But we take your vaccines and replace them with Folgers crystals, you know, and then now all of a sudden, you know, you don't got to pay anyone to take these. They'll roll up their sleeves and they'll happily take it. In fact, we'll fire it. We'll get a shitload of people. We'll find out who's resistant and who might not just be obedient, you know, to whatever, you know, orders we give, who are going to be the ones that might resist. And now we know now we know who might resist, you know, and they're like, but it's like, yeah, but you're going to poison all the people that are the obedient ones, you know, which was like something that Bill Burr said, you know, right at the beginning of the rollout of the vaccine, you know, because Bill Burr is one of those guys that he's kind of open to some of this conspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't know. A lot of people are worried about these vaccines, but he's like, I'm not that worried. He's like, why would they kill off all their own people? Like all the people that are obedient and will follow all their orders. Like the only ones that are gonna, like, you know, not take it are the ones who are too Fonzie, you know, to take it. Like it doesn't make sense to me. And I was like, actually, that's a pretty good point. You know, and that is one of those things. And that's why I'm like, yeah, they don't really care. Like whatever, they'll kill.
Yeah, if the aim is population reduction, okay, then who cares?
Yeah.
If the aim is discover how far you can push like a medical mandate, cool.
Yeah.
You know, with the I have no evidence to back it up besides my own just imaginings, but I also wondered about the whole alien connection, that when they had that it's not magenta, it's
Majestic or
no, the alien where they like captured the alien with the red eyes and everybody who touched it fucking died.
Huh.
And I was wondering, man, if you knew some, like, you're gonna have to deal with some aliens soon and their biology is gonna just like fuck you up, you might need to start doing some planning for that, because
yeah.
Maybe you are going to need to develop some kind of worldwide treatment or vaccine for dealing with some new biological
toxin
or
poison
toxin or something like that.
Yeah.
And have you seen all the recent vids of the drones just spraying mist below them?
Oh, that was coming out when the whole drone scare was coming out. What was it, like last Christmas?
No, and again, just
is it a new thing?
There's new videos and pictures of them doing it
in
again.
Europe. Is that? Are you talking about like in Europe or something? Or
yeah,
is that okay? I heard about. I didn't hear about the mist though.
Yeah, they're spraying mist again. There's like or they're releasing stuff again, which I don't know. I mean, but like doesn't sound super chill to me. I doubt it's like candy or some shit.
Totally.
It's not like money. It's not like dollar bills, you know.
And I remember because when the drone thing was happening around Christmas time in America, remember, but they were just saying it was happening in Jersey or something like that. But it was happening more than Jersey, but it was just said Jersey. And I think like Steph was in Florida at the time, and there was some weird drone activity that her and my brother saw, and they were like, dude, this is kind of weird. And Steph's like, Josh has been talking about this stuff, you know, like, this is weird. And they were like, and videos were coming out about this mist, and there was like close-ups of it, and there's like these big fat particles. It's funny, round dust. It was like, you know, whatchamacallit, Let It Go, you know, round dust. It was like these weird fucking thick dust, like particles being sprayed. It's like, what is this shit? It's like, who knows? But clearly, or I would assume that this is some form of experimentation of like, let's see how this goes. Like, how much can we push until there's a resistance? Okay, when there's resistance, we stop for a little while. We pause it for a little while, and then we bring it over there. And then we see how, you know, and so I do think there's like trial ballooning and testing, and the mist, and not to mention the mist thing kind of reminds me of that William Bramley, The Gods of Eden. Was it that, right? Where he talked about the plague, and he said there were all these accounts of things coming and spraying mist, you know?
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Good call, bro. Good call.
Right? It just makes me think of that. So I think, you know, what's cool about you and I doing this now is we've both done so much of our own research.
I know.
Right? Some of it's overlapped, some of it doesn't, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Right?
And you can actually remember people's fucking names.
Well, but you
That's
and I
nice.
both, we're both have good different strengths
Oh
that
yeah, for
complement
sure.
each
Oh,
other.
I'm not gonna attempt to try and start remembering people's fucking names now. No, 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 that ain't, yeah, no. I'll be the pitcher, you be the fucking home run guy, whatever, right? I'll be Ozzie Smith catching shit behind my back or whatever. It'll be awesome.
Ozzie Smith, what a great fucking record.
Yeah, so if you wanted to, yeah, if you need to be prepared for worldwide medical action, then running a fake, not super lethal,
Yeah,
design kind of DNA
a fire
weird
drill.
thing. Like, okay, I mean, maybe that's,
It's a fire drill.
yeah, like maybe it's worth it, right? Maybe you could sell people on that. Maybe you can sell Obama on that. Maybe you can sell Fauci on that. Look, this is for like the good of humanity. And it's not going to be that lethal, but we got to do this to be prepared. We need to do a fire drill. We need to run a fire drill. That's perfectly well said. You do the fire drills, and as much as they're a pain in the ass and people don't like leaving their apartment buildings or their classrooms or whatever the fuck,
Yep.
it makes sense. It makes
Yep.
people are annoyed at varying levels. Some people don't care.
Yep.
Some people do care. But the bosses or whatever, it's the law. It's what you do.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that could be one way to sell it. That could be one way to sell it.
Well, I think that there's some degree of that, no matter what. As far as I see it, I think in my mind there's no question.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, there's no question that this was man-made, released. And I was telling people very early on that, like, guys, everyone's saying this came from China. I'm like, I don't think this came from China. I think this came from us. It was released in China, and now you even have like Professor Jeffrey Sachs, from Columbia, saying that this likely came from University of North Carolina, Fort Detrick, and he was the guy tasked with investigating COVID and COVID origins. So I really do think that there is some sort of, grander thing going on, that they are trying to gauge who will go along with what, who won't, what institutions, like my dad does not see things the way he does because he's like, I'm in on it.
Right.
He's just a true believer, an idiot, true believer that got brainwashed and traumatized, some shit that was legit, like the Holocaust and the pogroms, and then some shit that wasn't. Whereas like my dad's, like, part of his justification yesterday for doing this was like one day all the Muslim people will take over and then they'll kill us, and quoted some line from the Quran that said that they're allowed to do bad things to Jews. And I'm like, really? I'm like, you're gonna be citing like some fucked up passage of a holy book? Like, we can't find fucked up passages from the Old Testament or the New Testament that someone who's not in that grouping, identity grouping, can't pick out and be like, well, this is a horrible thing to say. Clearly Judaism or Christianity is evil. It's like, please. Yes. I'm like, if that's like that mixed with your paranoia that one day, and I'm not saying it'll never come to pass, but I'm just saying, like, you're saying this might one day come to pass. I'm like the people you like are doing that right now.
Yeah.
They're doing it. There's not a theory. They're doing it right now.
Yes.
Like, and you have some theoretical thing that may or may not come to pass. And I'm not saying, and it's weird for me, and that's why I'm so glad I went so deep down into the left, that now I really feel like I understand the good and the bad of the left in a way that, when I talk to people that haven't done that or haven't left that ideology and groupthink, that are still just true believers of it, that are just like MK Ultra to do that and think that way, and or if I meet people on the right who are, you know, are just uncultured to do that, and I'm like, oh, you've like with my dad, I'm like, Dad, one thing I want to say this to him, I'm like, you know, one big difference between you and I is I once believed the same shit you believed.
Yeah.
Like everything you're saying, I once thought that and believed that to be true.
Yeah.
And I was once in your cult. And I've left the cult now. And now I'm being called a cult member for no longer being in your cult.
Yeah.
You know? And it's fucked up. And it's like, you're my dad. Like, you should be taking a little bit more care to be like, you know what? And because I, you know, like maybe Josh is on to something. Maybe Josh has a point, you know, because there's so many things outside of Israel that my dad, when I'm like, well, I'll say to my dad, well, you and I see things very differently. And he's like, actually, you know, I don't think we see things quite as differently anymore. I've come a lot closer to your side.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, shut up. I'm just like, fuck you. You know, like on one level, okay, I appreciate it. I thank you for having an open mind. On the other hand, like, fuck you. You're not doing that. You're still just like all in on your Walter Cronkite cult, you know, of this one source to one ring to rule them all, you know. And,
like Richard Jennings said it, so it's therefore it's true.
Yeah. Oh, it's you know, like we were arguing about like the Rothschilds yesterday, and I was like, well, yeah, them and the Rockefellers are clearly two of the families involved in this. And he was like, you know, it's just like 9/11. There's like, for people like him, it's like the Brett Weinstein thing. It's like they, instead of seeing the really looking into the abyss and seeing and questioning their groupthink, they have this backstop of Saudi Arabia. So my dad's like, no, the House of Saud is the wealthiest family in the world. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're super wealthy and they're up there, but the Rothschild families, like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, they're the wealthiest. And my dad, like, you know, looks up, searches, well, look, the Rothschilds only have a few $100 billion. I was like, please. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're really just going to go and Google that and like trust that shit? Like, no, their whole point is they're so, and this is the thing with me. I get it. Like, they were like the best chess players. They were the best fucking chess players.
Yes.
You know? And on some level, even though they brought about, or I think there's reason to believe they helped, you know, the Nazis come to power and are, you know, are have their fingerprints on most of these major events we're talking about. And it's not just them, it's them and others, you know, like their whole thing is, no, they don't want to be in the Forbes list of the most wealthy.
No, of course not. That's terrible.
You know, exactly. But he doesn't get it. He's still in that mindset. And it's like, you know what? That's that old generation is not going to be, they're going to struggle. You know, just like we're going to struggle to open our minds to some things that our kids are going to be more open to, you know? And I hope that I have a little more humility than my dad did, you know, when I'm confronted with some of those things, you know? And, you know, because the world, so many things are changing in such a way. Like some of the things when I had my breakdown, the vision at the beginning of COVID. Okay. Real quick, and then that.
Yeah, of course.
I just, you know, for me was like, I was still thinking about the Holocaust. I was still worried about getting marched onto a train. And I was wrong about that. And now I see, I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Because that's the old way. Like the new way is like, no, like there's a study that says more Americans have been killed by the COVID vaccines than all of the Americans who died in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined.
Yeah.
Like if that's true, then whoa, they don't need trains. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They don't need guns. They might have to spray some mist. They might have to put out a fucking virus. You know, like that. There's that saying, like, once you understand that the vaccines were not brought out for COVID, but that COVID was brought out for the vaccines, then things will make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you kind of like understand things as opposed to just like seeing it in the chronological order that it was presented to you.
Yeah.
That someone like my dad, he can't leave that Walter Cronkite kind of little
Yes.
Intellectual cul-de-sac, you know?
Well, great talking with you as always.
Yeah, great talking to you too, man.
I'll talk to you next time. I'll post this one up later today.
Yeah, this was helpful, man. This was cathartic. I was in a bad place after that talk with my dad.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the one thing I kept coming in my mind when we were talking about that is it's something Eugene Krishnamurti says. He says, when we start questioning what we've been taught and what the truth is, what we're really questioning are all the authority figures that we believed in and trusted.
Yeah.
And one of the big and main ones are our parents or whoever raised us. And so as we start to question what truth is, we start to question them. And we go, why the fuck did you believe this? Why did you teach me this? This is some bullshit. And the people that we relied on as children to try and help us understand what the world is like, and we realized they didn't fucking have a clue, or in a couple of areas they were so fucking far off that it's like, oh my God, this thing that I was a part of my identity because I believed it was true. Now I've got to let that go or change it. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, bro, like, because you kind of said that you're like, it's my dad, you know, like he's supposed to like look out for me. He's supposed to like at least like look at things, at least try to look at things the way that I am. Isn't that what a parent does? You know, are you gonna choose Zionism over family? Is that like what you're fucking doing here? You know?
Yeah,
because that's kind of what it would probably feel like. It's like, wait a minute, like I'm right here and I have an opinion, and you're taking Walter Cronkite's opinion over mine.
Mm-hmm.
And at least consider. And it's like, because they don't want to do the same thing, because the same thing happened to them. Their parents taught them this way, that this is how the world is and this is the truth. And so you don't want to question your parents. You don't want to go, oh wait, maybe they were full of shit or didn't know anything, or they were gullible and got taken in, got conned. I don't want to admit my dad, that happened to my dad or my grandfather or some shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Yeah. Amen.
See you next time.
See you next Wednesday, buddy.
Cool. See you then. All right. Bye.
Later, Dogon.
Later, man.